Well, kia ora and welcome to our latest Techbytes, where I get to sit down and have a chat with a tech leader, someone who's, got a great story to tell, is in an important role, and is so thrilled today to be talking with Megan Tapsell from the ANZ, one of our longest standing members, actually, ANZ. Now, good to talk to you, Megan. I know you're incredibly busy with your hand in so many things, as well as your role at ANZ. So would you mind introducing yourself a little description of what you do at the bank? We'll come to the AI forum later, and why their roles like yours exist in a bank.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou katoa and tēnā koe, Craig, ngā mihi mo te tukuna ki te time mai ki tēnei hui. So, kia ora everybody, ko Megan Tapsell tōku ingoa, he urio no te aroa, me Ngāti Raukawa ki te tonga. So my name is Megan Tapsell and I descend from Te Aroa Waka e Ngāti Raukawa ki te tonga. I was born in Maketu and I have whānau and relatives down in Otaki, and it's very nice to be here. So being in my role actually as General Manager of what we say Enterprise and Pacific at ANZ. And I look after the Pacific region, which consists of 8 countries, and I'm accountable for all the tech delivery, supporting both from networks through to telco support, the laptops you might have on the desk, as well as delivering the software that we use within the banking environment for the Pacific. I also have New Zealand domain accountability. I look after our business and agri sector as well as our institutional sector, and ensuring that the applications we use here in New Zealand are fit for purpose to help grow and support our business within the bank, alongside some enterprise assets. So enterprise being the foundational data tech, the payments, New Zealand piece, so payments for tech and ANZ. So it's a really large portfolio, and I actually feel quite privileged to be working here in this role. It offers a lot of diversity and there's lots of context switching that goes on here. These roles are really important. They're mainly management and leadership. Now we're very dependent on having really credible and empowered staff in our teams to help keep that construct and balance between service management, so making sure that we're managing our applications well, that we're keeping them fit and up to date to ensure our security posture remains strong as one component, and then also dealing with the changes when we need to be responsive to our customers to make sure that we're giving them the opportunities they need to access the bank through the multiple channels we offer, whether that be in branch or whether that be on our digital channels or on the telephone for that matter. So it's a very wide varying role, and I feel very lucky to be here at ANZ doing it.
Kia ora. So I always like to take people I'm talking to back to the beginning. And so, as a young wahine Māori, what encouragement did you get to go into a tech role at some point, and what got you started in it?
Oh, now I'd be telling you my age if I share this, but I think like most people, certainly back from my era, I fell into technology. It wasn't a directional choice. My background coming out of university was in law and Māori, and I always imagined myself either working in the political arena or at a law firm. But I ended up traveling to New Zealand, to the UK. It was 1999. And for those who are old enough will remember the Y2K. So we thought our clocks were going to tick over and the world was going to end and our systems not work. That opened up a lot of opportunity at the time. There was a real shortage of IT workers in London. And I had a brother who was working in the financial markets up there, delivering software to trading software, and he offered me a role. I never thought I'd stay in it, and for a very long time I never felt like a technologist because I had different aspirations directionally. But 15 years working in technology in London, you soon become just part of the makeup of it, and you realise that there's multiple skills that are required for technology delivery to be successful. I worked through a lot of aspects of technology throughout the time, starting from data and understanding the importance of reference data and underlying data in our platforms. Picked up lots of varying other roles, from business analysis through to Project management, I actually started my early career in doing delivery. So I learned to code and touched a bit of the code and got comfortable with that delivery process before transitioning into those other roles. And then over time started picking up leadership roles, application support, and leading delivery teams, which has ultimately led me to here. And as a woman, actually, I think it's worth highlighting, it was a very sexist industry. It was London in the early 2000s. And there's many stories I could share, but won't, around what I saw. I was shocked, actually, as a young Kiwi woman going into what felt like a big sort of corporate job. They were still smoking on the floors, feet were up on desks. There were actually penthouse pictures hanging around as calendars and on screensavers. So I came from, I learned in a place like that, and have transitioned through that industry to a much better environment for females today. So lots of learnings were picked up along the way. As a Māori, I felt very much out of place in there. And I guess I learned just to park that side of me. When I came back to New Zealand in 2015, I had very high expectations around coming back into a country that respected my Indigenous or my Māori background. And I felt a little bit let down, I'll be honest, when I first come back. And it was just a mismanagement of expectations, 15 years or 16 years out of New Zealand coming home. But I was very lucky to go on a leadership course here within the bank, and we focused a bit around purpose. And through working through and identifying what purpose meant for me, but working in a corporate world that I work in, it encouraged me to put being Māori at the forefront in this world. And I remember reading a line that said, articulate your purpose and have the courage to live it. And I've really held on to that, and I still hold on to that as a guiding sort of principle around my purpose has become about advocating for Māori and providing pathways into technology. And what does that mean, and how do I need to how do I need to ensure that I am representing that at all moments in the work that I do? And so that has really encouraged me to bring forth my culture into the workplace and try and take that sort of leadership where I can.
Awesome. Hey, so can we delve a bit more into your journey that takes you from, getting into the environment to the senior role? I mean, often decisions are made, you make decisions along the way that when you look back, you go, I know why I made that decision, but at the time it seems a little bit, I don't know, a bit strange, or maybe a little bit left field, or like you going from law to technology, for example. I mean, can you talk us through some of the important decision points you made along the way that got your career to this point?
Yeah, look, that's a very good question. I think the environment and the construct and the people who you surround you with play larger influences. Growing up, my best friend's father, actually, Peter Rolliston, I remember sitting around a table in Tauranga, and I spent many hours at their house, and we often sat around and spoke around, you'd hear him speaking around Māori issues, and we spoke about travelling, and he really supported this idea of you could go away and travel and bring back what you learn. And I guess that sort of planted a seed when I travelled around understanding the world and trying to bring the world back, or those learnings back into the work and back home. And I think your mind changes with every experience and touch point that you have. Your context continually shifts. So going overseas into London was an opportunity just to learn and to bring back all this new information I was learning to whatever role that was going to be when I come back home. That sort of guided me to take every opportunity that I could take along the way, along my journey in life. So that's kind of guided me. If opportunities came up, instead of saying no to them, take them. As I've got older, actually, that shifted for me. I've got far more particular around those opportunities. And I think because I've learned more around what drives me and my purpose. If I don't feel now that a role helps me satisfy that, is this going to help me connect more with Māori? Will I be able to provide pathways for Māori? If I can't get that sense, do I believe in what we're doing here and it's directionally going to help grow and empower Māori, then it's a lot harder for me to say yes to those opportunities. So I think when I was younger, I went for grasping all the opportunities I could. As I got older and realized that we only have so many footprints on this planet and we should be making the most out of it, I've got far more selective to make sure that my choices align with those outcomes that are important to me.
Well, let's just take a sideways step for a sec, just on that. You work in a large corporate.
Yes.
It's an Australian-owned corporate.
Yep.
How do you make an impact, or what advice do you have for people who work in large organisations who might be Māori, might be something completely different, but they want to make an impact? How do you do that inside an organisation like yours?
Yeah, look, it can be hard, and you can get overwhelmed by the mechanics of the machine and feel like that you don't have those opportunities. And what I had to decide in returning to New Zealand is, who do you work for? And could I go back home and work for my iwi and try and work more back there? My family and actually close peers have encouraged me to stay in this world and try and create those pathways to allow that connectivity for our young rangatahi who are coming out of university, and to create an environment where they can be culturally safe. And so that's become more of my, how can I do that? Who do I need to agitate, and being unafraid to agitate around driving a little bit of change here? What's my circle of control in my job, whether you're managing a team of 5 or whether you're managing a team of 50 or 500? What can I control around creating a space that's going to drive, if someone comes in here, they're going to feel like they belong. And that could be as simple as what language do I start my conversation with every day? How do I ensure that people are pronouncing things correctly? How do I ensure that as we train people, that we're training in a way that allows them to understand the concepts that align with their context and their upbringing, whether it be a technical concept or whether it be an organizational concept. So you've got to work out what you can control, and you need to network with people who are going to be your supporters. I'm incredibly lucky that my manager is a large supporter of those things that I'm really interested in, that taking an industry role and bringing that industry view, and not confining yourself to just your organizational views. Go out externally, join forums or industry bodies, or take non-for-profit type roles, or go onto school boards and get a little bit more understanding of how other organizations work, and what opportunities that you can bring and connect into. So there's lots of ways to connect opportunities, both externally, and realize what you can control internally, no matter how little or how big. Little change is just as important. The way in which an individual with a team of 2, 3, 5 behaves can manifest and plant seeds to much bigger change.
Well, I want to come back to some of the specific issues in the tech industry at the moment, and one that we at 2Ns, have started our mahi on. But we know from all sorts of research that we have an issue around lack of skilled staff in tech in New Zealand, and there's not enough women, there's not enough Māori, not enough Pacifica. So as a leader, what sort of things do you think we could do to improve that situation?
Yeah, look, it's a big question, and all organisations are grappling with it. And it's a generational thing. It's not just about the here and now. It's around, and it's a broader society problem to resolve around what we're doing within the schooling systems, how we're encouraging and maintaining all of those individuals, women, or those demographics, the Māori, the Pacifica, to stay in school, to reach a level where they can get entry pathways into organisations like ANZ. So again, it comes back to what can we control. As an organisation, it's how we create those industry connections into secondary schools. I've got a Māori and Pacific group that I work with within tech here at ANZ, and we are connecting with partner schools or schools that we can that we want to work with to try and inspire these young kids to see those who are successful in this world, other Māori and Pacifica, and women who are here and doing well, so that they can see that they can do that too, and just try and be that face and guiding for them. So that's one way, and that's kind of like encouragement. But I think as organisations, we need to get a little bit harder. We're trying to resolve issues of centuries of policies and regulation, and history's led us to here. And for us to really get past here, and throughout that history, all these demographics took a hit. Right now, really to get that balance, we need to be quite brave, and unfortunately, someone else needs to take the hit while we prioritise other demographics to the front. And I think that is really the only way we're going to get over it quickly, to make those leaps and bounds and get in a bit more balance. We are seeing that, well, data is forecasting that Māori and Pacific are going to be a large portion of our future workforce. But in order for them to be in roles and be successful in the technology industry, they're still going to need to come with a level of understanding around the tech so that they can play a role in there. So bridging programs that help them uplift, I think, with the introduction of AI and prompt AI, prompt engineering, there's a transitional period here where they can really look to play a role more easily than they could have, a year ago. So it's how do we, as the leaders, try and create and bridge those pathways to get our young Māori and Pacific and women into tech. There's no easy answer. It's continued focus, continued lobbying, and maybe some defined KPIs and metrics and measures within organisations to get us to leap forward.
Yeah, it is an issue. When we had a hui this week, just talking about what Te Means could do next year, and we're only a small player in the space. We might be able to have a loud voice, but actually achieving something is a big ask. But you're right, every little thing we can do is a positive step forward. So look, the other space I know you from is the chair of the AI forum, and we're all really looking into this space at the moment. And I'm used to seeing your passion for the use of these tools, even before the big Gen AI burst, So why are you so passionate about AI, and what role does that sort of tech play in organisations like ANZ?
Look, I think it's going to play a role in all organisations, and if there's an organisation out there not looking at it, they should probably start to take an interest. But I'm sure they are, and I know it's not easy. It's not easy getting your head around the concept of what it, the opportunity of it, and what it takes to operationalise it. But why am I interested in it? Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. I've been part of the AI Forum for 6+ years, and I could see the potential of the technology. I wasn't actively working on it at the time. I, in fact, started consulting from a Māori perspective around it. And coming back to the earlier conversation around purpose, if we are not in the room, we are not a voice. And it was important that there was a Māori in the room to help ensure that as this technology scaled, there was a Māori voice. So at the beginning, it was around ensuring the diversity of thought. As it went on, and actually, so diversity of thought was one thing. And then as I started to pick up the governance role, the AI Forum's an incredible group of people who come together from all aspects of our community and industries. And the ability to influence the leaders, those who are actually actively working on it, really came to the fore. And every time I walk into the room, I'm inspired by what's happening across all these different areas. But what's more important is that they're inspired by having someone with connectivity to Māori that they are then taking away and learning from and taking back and putting into their own sort of organisations, or actively having conversations through that learning. We've built up the Kāhui Māori, which is a Māori body within the AI forum that can help advise and consult on varying papers that are written or activity that's going on. So the reason I'm driven by it is because I could very early on understand the scale of impact that this technology was going to have. And we've already built up a trusted body of Māori advisors in there to help influence really positive outcomes for Māori. And sometimes that might be by being the antagonist or the questioning, you know, in a more direct way around the impact and what they're doing. Other times it's around just being there to support and guide. It's not always all roses.
Yeah. So let me ask you to think a bit broader then. You know, you're talking about this uptake. You know, you're a digital leader in Aotearoa in many ways, you know, whether it's in the role that you're in, the impact you're having, or on the AI forum. But, you know, as a digital leader in Aotearoa, what big ideas should a country like ours focus on if we want to move up the global digital competitive ladder?
Oh, gee, that's a big question. We often grapple with, you know, what do we want to be famous for? And I think that's a question, whether it's a small team, big team, or a country. We can't do it all. It'd be lovely if we could, but the bucket of funding is only so big, and it needs to be divided out in ways that are going to help support. And when you look across the technology stack, and whether we're looking at infrastructure and whether we're building our own data centers or whether we utilize cloud, you know, we're dealing with challenges at that levels, whether we're looking at different product sets, industries or segment that we could invest in. You know, we've got we're famous for agriculture and good production in that space. Our forestry, our primary industries are right at the front. And the digital tech is an enabler to those industries. Now, the question that we need to decide on is, do we just want that digital overlay? Are those industries still our core Aotearoa industries? And what can we do to enhance that capability, whether we're using AI, whether we're using other technology stacks that are coming up behind it? Do we just continue to focus here, or are we something more? Is technology actually an industry? And we know it's our third biggest export industry at the moment in Aotearoa. So what does that look like? What products and services do we want to build behind that? Automation is a big thing. So for those who want to stay in just that primary sort of software development and plug into all industries, you can take a lens like that. Do you want to be good at producing tech that automates things? We're seeing a lot happen in Aotearoa, particularly around design and media and that sort of space. And, you know, there's lots of opportunities. And then we've got the unique Aotearoa view, the fact that we are Māori, the fact that we're quite proud of our culture as a country, that it's interspersed and amongst all the things we do, whether it's All Blacks, whether it's in New Zealand and other big corporates who actually present us in that space as a proud part of the country. You know, do we design and deliver a unique cultural experience? It's hard to pick. And we can only pick one or two sort of areas. And the environment seems to be one of the spaces where I think we've got a big role to play. It brings in a lot of our Māori values in terms of the kaitiakitanga and manaakitanga. If you think around the way, the kind of problems we've got to solve, whether it was be around coastal erosion and the shape of our land, our farming and agriculture, it sort of brings in all of that. I feel like if we were going to pick one, that's a really strong place for Aotearoa to play in that broader landscape of the kind of tech that we produce. But I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. That's just building on something that we know that we're pretty good at already. So how do we accelerate that? The other thing that we're quite renowned for, whether we know it or not, is we've got really good research. So within our academic sphere, we've got really strong research in our technology sphere that we're producing. So do we invest and uplift our capability in that space? So as opposed to developing the tech, do we become the place to come to get research done? So there's those are probably the two sort of things that I think we'd lead by, but there's probably a whole lot more out there.
Yeah, it probably is. Look, I always like to end up by coming back to you as a person and as a leader and someone leading in a senior role in your company, which is one of New Zealand's largest. What are some of the key learnings you've had over time as you've gone through your career and led that you wished you'd known earlier and that you want to share?
I had actually, when I was based up in the UK, I had a team in New York, in North America. And actually at the time, we had offices around Europe, and we centralized the software at the time into our London office. And so I dealt with a lot of people with a lot of different languages. I'm dealing with those in France and Luxembourg and varying parts of Europe. And then when we started working a lot more closely with our North American peers, I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be much easier. They speak English. And it was really interesting. The office space was interesting. We had the Italians mainly worked in operations, and actually we had a lot of the Jewish worked in technology. It seemed to be just the shape of the organization there. But even though we both spoke English, we were culturally worlds apart in the way that we thought and in our approach. And that was a really interesting learning for me in relation to how we do business with people, whether it be somebody in the organization and in the organization you already work in, or someone in a different country. Just because we speak the same language, don't think that our cultures are aligned. And in fact, what I've learned is those other native speaking countries, we've got more in common with those who don't speak English from a connectivity perspective than we do with those who speak English. And so that's something I've taken with me throughout my career. Don't assume that just because I can talk to you more easily that you understand the way I do work and the way that I understand that you do work. And that comes down to how I approach connectivity with those that I'm ever in a room with. Yeah.
That's a great piece of learning. Thanks for sharing that, Megan. Look, it's been amazing and awesome to talk to you. We don't really get the chance to have these sort of conversations because we come across each other. We're just always so busy. But I mean, you got any last comments or thoughts you'd like to share just on anything before we move on?
We're always in a constant state of change. The world's always shifting, whether it be in the political environment that we're in, whether it be in the organizational constructs that we're in, and whatever field we're working in, it's really important that we stay true to the purpose or the value that you identify with. So I guess I just come back to what I said early on, find out what drives you, and find your purpose, articulate it, because once you've voiced it, it's out there in the world, and then just have the courage to live it. So yeah, those are my departing words.
Amazing. Thank you, Megan. Look, I really appreciate your time because I know you're incredibly busy with all the things that you do. So thank you so much. And thank you, those of you that have tuned in. Maybe you're listening to it on Spotify or any of the platforms where we put the podcast, and if you want to listen to it again, you can do it, or this video will be up on our YouTube channel. So thank you, everyone, and we'll be back next month with another Tech Bites and Conversations. So mā te wā.
Kia ora, Craig. Ka kite.